I still remember the exact moment she said it, her voice trembling just enough to make my chest tighten before I even understood why. "Why do you keep avoiding me?" my best friend's mother asked, standing in the doorway like she had been waiting for this moment for weeks. I froze, my hand still on the doorknob, halfway between leaving and staying, my mind racing for an excuse that didn't exist. I could feel her eyes on me, searching, desperate, almost pleading. And in that moment, I realized I couldn't lie anymore. So I looked at her, took a shaky breath, and said the one thing I had been holding back for years. "Because you remind me of him." Was I wrong for saying that? Would you have told her the truth, or would you have kept running like I did? The truth is, nothing about this situation was simple, even though from the outside it probably looked like I was just being cold or distant for no reason. I wasn't always like this. There was a time when her house felt like my second home, when I didn't think twice before walking in without knocking, when her voice calling my name from the kitchen felt as natural as my own mother's. Her son, my best friend, was the kind of person you don't just forget. He had this way of pulling you into his world, making everything feel lighter, easier, like no matter how bad things got, you'd somehow be okay as long as he was around. We met when we were kids, back when life was simple and our biggest problems were school assignments and who got to pick the game we played after class. He was louder than me, more confident, always the one to start conversations, while I was the one who followed, who listened, who laughed a little too hard at his jokes because they made me feel like I belonged. Over time, we became inseparable. Sleepovers turned into late-night talks about our dreams, our fears, the kind of future we thought we'd have. His house became my safe place, and his mother, she treated me like I was her own. She would always make extra food, even if I showed up unannounced. She remembered the small things, like how I liked my tea or which snacks I preferred. Sometimes she would sit with us, listening to our conversations, smiling in that quiet, knowing way that only mothers do. I never realized how much those little moments would mean to me later, how they would replay in my mind over and over again, like a film I couldn't stop watching. Everything changed the day we lost him. Even now, saying it feels unreal, like I'm talking about someone else's life instead of my own. One day he was there, laughing, planning, making promises about the future, and the next, he was gone. It wasn't sudden in the sense that it happened in an instant, but it felt that way to me. One phone call, one moment, and everything collapsed. I remember standing there, holding my phone, hearing the words, but not understanding them, like my brain refused to process what my ears were hearing. The days that followed were a blur of faces, voices, and tears. People kept coming and going, offering condolences, sharing memories, saying things like, "He's in a better place," and "Stay strong," but none of it made sense. Nothing felt real. I kept expecting him to walk through the door, to laugh at how dramatic everyone was being, to tell me it was all some kind of misunderstanding. But he never came back. His house, which once felt so full of life, became heavy with silence. His room stayed the same, as if frozen in time, and every corner of that place held a memory. I tried to be there for his mother, I really did. In the beginning, I visited often, sitting with her, listening to her talk about him, about the little things he used to do as a child, about how she couldn't believe he was gone. Sometimes she would cry, and I would just sit there, not knowing what to say, feeling completely useless but unable to leave. But over time, something inside me started to change. Being in that house became harder. Every object, every smell, every sound reminded me of him. And then there was her. The way she spoke, the way she smiled through her pain, the way her eyes would light up for a split second when she saw me as if she was seeing him instead. It started to feel unbearable. At first, I told myself I was just busy. I had school, responsibilities, things to take care of. I skipped a visit here and there, then more and more, until weeks turned into months. She would call sometimes, her voice soft and hopeful, asking if I could come by. And every time, I would make an excuse. "I'm busy. Maybe next week. I'll let you know. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't busy. I was avoiding her. The guilt ate at me constantly. I knew she was alone. I knew she had lost more than anyone else. And here I was, the one person who shared her memories of him, slowly disappearing from her life. But every time I thought about going back, about facing her, about stepping into that house again, my chest would tighten, and I would feel like I couldn't breathe. Then one day, I ran into her by accident. I was walking down the street, lost in my own thoughts, when I heard my name. I turned around and there she was. For a moment, neither of us said anything. She looked older, more tired, like the weight of everything she had been carrying was finally showing. But when she saw me, she smiled. Not a big, happy smile, but a small, fragile one, like she was afraid it might break. We talked for a few minutes, the kind of awkward, surface-level conversation you have when there's so much you're not saying. And then she said it. "You should come by sometime. I made your favorite tea the other day and realized you haven't been around in a while." I nodded, forcing a smile, saying something vague about being busy again. And I saw it, just for a second, the disappointment in her eyes. That night, I couldn't sleep. Her face kept replaying in my mind, the way her voice sounded, the way she tried to hide how much it hurt. I knew I couldn't keep doing this. I knew I had to face her, to explain, to stop running. So that's how I ended up standing at her door again, after all those months. And that's when she asked me the question I had been avoiding all along. So that's the situation I was in, standing there with the weight of everything I had been running from pressing down on me. Before I tell you what happened next, I want you to think about it for a second. If you were in my place, would you have told her the truth, even if it hurt her? Or would you have kept lying just to protect her feelings? Because in that moment, I realized there was no easy way out. When I told her, "Because you remind me of him," the words felt heavy, like they carried every emotion I had been suppressing. For a second, she just stared at me, her expression unreadable. And then, slowly, something in her face changed. Not anger, not even sadness exactly, but understanding. She stepped aside and said, "Come in." I hesitated, but then I did. Walking into that house again felt like stepping into the past. Everything was the same, and yet completely different. The silence was louder, the memories sharper. She led me to the living room, and we sat down, the space between us filled with everything we hadn't said over the past months. "I was wondering," she said softly. "I thought maybe I did something wrong." That hit me harder than anything else. I shook my head quickly. "No, never. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just being here, being around you. It makes everything feel real again. It reminds me that he's actually gone, and I didn't know how to handle that." She nodded, her eyes filling with tears, but she didn't look away. "Do you think it's any different for me?" That question broke something inside me. For the first time, I really saw her pain, not just as something I was trying to avoid, but as something she was living with every single day. And suddenly, my reasons for staying away felt small. We talked for hours that day. About him, about everything we had been holding in, about how hard it was to move forward when it felt like part of us was stuck in the past. There were tears, there were moments of silence, but there was also something else, something lighter, like a small piece of the weight had been lifted. When I finally left, it didn't feel as heavy as it used to. I didn't start visiting every day after that, and things didn't magically become easy. But I stopped running. I started showing up again, little by little. And each time, it got a bit easier to face the memories, to accept the pain instead of avoiding it. Looking back now, I realized that I wasn't just avoiding her. I was avoiding my own grief. I thought staying away would protect me, but all it did was make things harder in the long run. If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that sometimes the people who remind us the most of what we've lost are also the ones who can help us heal. So yeah, maybe what I said hurt her in the moment, but it also opened the door to something we both needed. If you made it this far, I want to know what you think. Was I wrong for avoiding her? Was I wrong for telling her the truth like that? Let me know in the comments. And if this story meant something to you, if you've ever gone through something similar or felt the same kind of loss, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more real, emotional stories like this. I'll see you all in the next story.